The man at the window. When I was 14, my bedroom window faced the side of our house where a narrow alley ran between us and the fence line. It wasn't really an alley, just a 5-foot gap with crushed gravel, weeds, and a little wooden gate at the end that no one ever used. Our house was in a quiet neighborhood, small town Michigan, where people left their porch lights on more for decoration than for safety. It was the kind of place where nothing bad really happened. Until it did. This started during the fall of 2014. I remember that because my dad had just lost his job and was working nights for some warehouse on the edge of town. Mom worked at a nursing home and pulled double shifts constantly, so I was used to being alone at night. I never minded it. I had video games, soda, headphones. That was heaven for a 14-year-old introvert. But one night, something changed. It was a Friday. I remember because I didn't have school the next day. I was up late, lying in bed watching YouTube on my tablet with my headphones in. The glow from the screen was the only light in the room. Everything else was pitch black. Around midnight, I paused the video because I thought I heard something. Not through the headphones. I mean a real sound like a crunch outside the window. I took my headphones off, listened. Nothing. Just silence. I told myself it was the wind or a raccoon. I even laughed at myself a little. But just as I was about to press play again, I heard it again. Crunch. Crunch. Like footsteps on gravel. This time, I sat up. The sound stopped. I leaned over and pulled back the edge of the curtain just an inch. My heart jumped. There was a man standing there. Not moving, just standing, facing the window. He wasn't pressed up against the glass or anything. He was standing maybe 5 feet back in the darkness. But the porch light from the front of the house cast just enough glow along the wall to light the edge of his face. He was bald, completely bald, and his face was blank. I don't mean he looked expressionless. I mean he looked blank, like something about his face didn't make sense. The way you dream about a person without features. He just stood there, staring, his arms hanging at his sides. I dropped the curtain and froze. My heart was hammering in my chest. I didn't want to move, didn't want to breathe. I thought about calling my mom, but her phone was always on silent during her overnight shifts. My dad wouldn't be home until 3 a.m. So I did the dumbest thing imaginable. I stayed quiet. I waited, listening for more footsteps. But there was nothing. I waited for what had to be 10 minutes before I finally got the nerve to peek again. He was gone. The gravel was empty. I tried to calm down. Told myself maybe I imagined it. Maybe it was a shadow. Maybe it was a prank. A neighbor. Anything. I turned on the lamp, shut the blinds tight, and left the tablet playing videos to help drown out the silence. Eventually, I fell asleep. The next morning, I woke up feeling dumb. Embarrassed even. I told myself it was probably just my brain playing tricks on me. Until I went outside to get the newspaper. The gravel outside my window was disturbed. Not a lot, just a few weird drag marks. Like someone had paced there. There was also a small, perfect shoe print right under the window. A grown man's size. I didn't say anything to my parents. I don't know why. I think I just didn't want to make it real. But the worst part? That wasn't the last night I saw him. It happened again a week later. This time, it was raining. It was around 2 a.m. and I woke up to the sound of water dripping from the gutters. I was lying there half asleep when I noticed something weird. The blinds were slightly open. I never left them open. Just a 2-inch gap, but enough to let in the streetlight from the end of the alley. And in that faint slit, I saw movement. I leaned up slowly, looked through the gap. There he was again. Same spot, same stillness, but this time, closer. He was standing just inches from the glass, staring directly into my room. No expression, no movement, just watching. This time I did panic. I jumped out of bed and ran to the door. I locked it. Then I grabbed my baseball bat and ran to the living room. I turned on every light in the house. I don't even know why. I just needed brightness. I peeked out the kitchen window. Nothing. I checked the side yard. Empty. I stayed up until sunrise, bat in hand, heart racing the entire time. When my mom got home that morning, I told her everything. She looked tired but concerned. She went outside, checked around. She didn't find anything, but she believed me. That's when my dad finally installed a motion light on the side of the house. It stayed quiet after that for a while. A month passed, maybe more. Then, just when I thought I was over it, it happened again. But this time, it wasn't just him. It was Christmas break. My cousin was staying over in my room. We'd set up sleeping bags on the floor and were playing some multiplayer game on my Switch. It was late, around 1:30 a.m., when the side yard light suddenly clicked on. We both froze. I muted the game and whispered, "Did you see that?" My cousin nodded. We stayed still, listening. Nothing. Then, tap. It came from the window. We didn't move. Then tap, 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 like knuckles on glass. Slow, deliberate. I whispered, "Don't go near it." My cousin didn't respond. He just stared. I crawled across the floor, grabbed my bat, and motioned for him to follow me. We slipped out of the room and went to the living room where the bigger windows looked out across the side of the house. That's when we saw it. Not one, but two people were standing in the alley. The bald man and someone else. The second person was shorter, wearing some kind of oversized hoodie. Both of them were just standing there, motionless, facing the house. No masks, no smiles, no expressions. I called 911 immediately. I told them someone was outside, two people, and they'd been there before. The dispatcher said an officer would be dispatched immediately. We watched through the window. I could feel my cousin shaking beside me. The two figures never moved. Then, after what felt like hours, we saw the headlights. A patrol car rolled up slowly, and the second those beams hit the side yard, they were gone. Just gone. No running. No sound. Just vanished. The officer checked the yard, the alley, the backyard. Nothing. No footprints this time. Just rain-drenched gravel. He told us to keep the doors locked and call again if anything happened. That was the last time I ever saw them. But even now, years later, I keep a baseball bat under my bed. I never leave my blinds open. And sometimes, just sometimes, I wake up at night and swear I can hear footsteps on the gravel. Crunch, crunch, and I don't look. The thing at the campsite. I was 19 when this happened. It was the summer before sophomore year of college, and my friends and I decided we needed a real adventure, something to shake us out of the routine of lectures, late night pizza, and cramming for finals. So we went camping. There were four of us, me, my best friend Casey, and two guys from our dorm, Ian and Rob. We were tight, played soccer together, stayed up late watching horror movies, thought we were invincible. We picked a place way up north, Black Hollow State Forest. It's a huge, underdeveloped stretch of woods in Pennsylvania. Barely maintained trails, no rangers, no phone service. The perfect kind of place to act like we were tough guys living off the grid. We packed the essentials, tents, firewood, cheap beer, some junk food, and a speaker for music. It was supposed to be 3 nights out there. No phones, no rules, just the woods. We set up camp in this little clearing about 3 miles off the trailhead. It was quiet, almost too quiet. No birdsong, no wind. Just the rustling of the trees and our own voices echoing a little too loudly. That first night was perfect. Campfire, cold beer, dumb jokes, and stars so bright you could see the Milky Way stretch across the sky. At around 2 a.m., we turned in. I shared a tent with Casey, and Ian and Rob bunked in the other one about 20 feet away. I fell asleep easily. Until I didn't. It must have been around 4 a.m. when I woke up to a sound I couldn't place. A slow crack. Crack. Like something heavy stepping on twigs. Not fast. Not hurried. Just steady. Deliberate. I laid there, holding my breath. Casey was still snoring beside me. I didn't want to wake him. I told myself it was probably a deer, maybe a raccoon. Then I heard breathing, not from inside the tent, from outside, right behind where our heads were. Deep, slow, rhythmic breathing. I turned to look at Casey, expecting him to stir. Nothing. He was dead asleep. Then, from behind the thin nylon wall of our tent, I heard it. A whisper. So close I felt it more than heard it. "You awake?" It wasn't Casey's voice. It was low, scratchy, wrong. I froze. I couldn't breathe, couldn't even blink. Then it spoke again, slightly louder. "I can hear you breathing." I wanted to scream, but I couldn't move. I laid there, paralyzed, eyes wide, heart pounding so hard I thought it would explode. Then silence. Long, awful silence. And then the sound of footsteps slowly walking away toward the other tent. I finally found my voice and whispered, "Casey, wake up. Wake up, dude." He groaned, half asleep. "What?" I whispered it again, louder this time. "There's someone out there." Someone walked up to the tent. He sat up, still groggy. "What? A bear?" "No, a man." Someone was right outside. That woke him up fast. We grabbed the flashlight and unzipped the tent just enough to peek out. The fire had burned low, just glowing embers. The woods were pitch black. We called out to Ian and Rob. No answer. We tried again, louder this time. Nothing. Casey said, "I'm going over there." I grabbed his arm. "Wait. What if someone's messing with us?" But Casey's one of those people who always has to prove he's not scared. So he marched over with the flashlight while I stayed crouched near the tent flap, heart racing. He got to their tent and called out again. This time, Rob groaned and sat up, poking his head out. "What?" he mumbled. "It's the middle of the night." Casey asked if he heard anything. He said no. Ian was still passed out. We checked the campsite together. No footprints, no movement, no sound. We chalked it up to my imagination and went back to sleep. But deep down, I knew what I heard. The next day was fine. We hiked, joked, cooked burgers over the fire. No one brought up the incident. That night, we built a bigger fire. Stayed up later. Casey passed out first. Then Ian and Rob stumbled off to their tent around 2 a.m. I stayed behind to finish a beer and stoke the fire. I remember the exact moment I felt it. That shift in the air. Like the pressure dropped, like something had sucked all the sound out of the forest. The flames cracked gently, the trees didn't move. I looked up and saw eyes. Shining, reflecting the firelight from deep in the woods. Two pale glints, motionless in the black. I stood up slowly, flashlight in hand. I clicked it on and pointed toward the trees. Nothing. No eyes. No shape, just empty woods. I waited. Nothing moved. I doused the fire, threw some logs on top just in case, and climbed back into the tent. But I didn't sleep. Hours passed. Every tiny sound made me jump. Then, just before sunrise, I heard it again. Footsteps, soft, careful, coming from behind our tent. Then, the whisper. But this time, not to me. This time, it was inside the tent, right behind Casey's head. "You're not alone." Casey bolted upright with a gasp. She looked at me in terror. "You heard that too, right?" I nodded. We grabbed our light and threw open the tent flap. Nothing. No one. The fire was dead. The woods were silent. We didn't sleep the rest of the night. We told Ian and Rob in the morning. They thought we were joking at first, but when they saw how pale we were, they started to believe. We should have left then. We should have packed up and gone home. But we were stupid. We told ourselves we could handle one more night. That if it happened again, we'd all stay up, 4 of us together around the fire, lights on, weapons ready. That was our plan. And we stuck to it. That third night, we didn't drink. We kept the fire blazing. We each had something, a knife, a hatchet, even a big metal tin stake. We waited. 1 a.m. Nothing. 2 a.m. Nothing. 3 a.m. That's when the forest went quiet again. No wind. No night sounds. Just stillness. We heard the crunch of gravel just beyond the trees. Then footsteps. So, getting closer. Ian whispered, "Do you see that?" There was a figure, tall, hunched, standing just beyond the edge of the firelight. We all stood up, weapons in hand. The thing didn't move. It was human-shaped but wrong. Too thin, too long, like someone stretched out in all directions. Then it stepped forward, and we saw its face. It wasn't a face. It was like a smear of features. No eyes, no mouth, just skin. And yet, somehow, it smiled. A grin formed across the smooth surface, impossibly wide. That was it. We ran, grabbed nothing, left everything. We sprinted down the trail, crashing through trees, tripping on roots. Casey fell and scraped his face on a rock. Ian dropped the flashlight and didn't stop for it. We didn't look back until we saw the first sign of the trailhead. Then we ran another mile to the car. When we finally got there, Rob was sobbing. Casey threw up. Ian was bleeding from his leg. We drove all the way back to town in total silence. The next day, we went back for our gear with a local sheriff's deputy. Our tents had been torn apart, not slashed, ripped. Our cooler was gone. The fire pit had been filled in with dirt, and near where our chairs had been, the dirt was covered in handprints. Hundreds of them, all facing inward toward where we sat. The sheriff said it was probably local kids messing around, but I know better. We all do. We never talked about it again. Not seriously. Not like we believed it. But sometimes, late at night, I'll hear a soft whisper behind me. "You're not alone." And I remember the shape standing just beyond the firelight, waiting. The man in the driveway. This happened in 2021, during the winter lockdowns. I was working remotely at the time, living in a small rental house about 20 minutes outside of Denver. It was cheap, a little rundown, but I liked it. Quiet street, decent neighbors, mountain views out the back window. It snowed a lot that year, thick, wet storms that came down fast and heavy. Most people kept to themselves. The roads were quiet, and that suited me fine. I've always liked being alone. Until this night. It was a Thursday. I remember because I had just finished back-to-back Zoom calls for work and decided to take a break. I was still in sweatpants. Hadn't left the house in 3 days. Just me, a frozen pizza, and an old true crime doc on the TV. Around 7 p.m., it started snowing again. Heavy. Fast. I stepped out to the porch with my coffee, just to feel the air. I remember thinking how eerily still everything was. No wind, no birds, just snow piling up silently. The whole world felt muted. Then I saw it. At the end of my driveway, maybe 30 feet from where I stood, there was a man. Just standing there, facing the house. At first I thought maybe it was a neighbor, maybe someone lost or drunk. But he didn't move, didn't wave, just stood still, looking up at me. He was tall, wearing a winter coat and a beanie. His hands were in his pockets. I couldn't see his face, just a vague outline through the curtain of snow. I raised my hand. "Hey, you okay?" No response. Just standing. Still. I stepped down off the porch and onto the first stair. "Hello?" He didn't move. Didn't blink. Something about that froze me. Then I heard it. Crunch. Behind me. I turned quickly. No one there. When I looked back toward the driveway, he was gone. No sound. No tracks in the fresh snow. Nothing. Just empty white. I stood there for a long time, trying to rationalize it a trick of the eyes. Shadows. A branch falling. Something. But I knew what I saw. I went inside, locked the door, shut all the blinds. That should have been it. But it wasn't. Not even close. Around 2 a.m., I was half asleep on the couch when I heard a thud. Not loud, just enough to snap me awake. Then came the sound of footsteps on my front porch. Slow, heavy, pacing. I held my breath. They stopped right in front of the door. I got up slowly, heart pounding. I didn't have a weapon. Closest thing was a fire poker by the wood stove. I crept to the window beside the door and lifted the edge of the blind. There he was. The same man, now closer, standing on the porch, looking directly at the door. Still no face, just darkness under the beanie. His shoulders were hunched now, his breath clouded in the air. But he didn't knock, didn't speak, just stood there, like he was waiting. I backed away, phone in hand, ready to call the police. But then he stepped backward, off the porch, and slowly walked away into the night. Not down the street, not to a car, just into the woods behind my house. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I installed a camera facing the driveway. I even ordered a motion-activated floodlight on Amazon. I tried to tell myself it was just a drifter, a hiker, maybe someone confused. It happens out here. But then came the second night. The camera triggered at 1:12 a.m. I checked the feed on my phone and froze. There he was again, standing in the exact same spot in the driveway, motionless, staring up at the house. The light didn't scare him. He didn't move. He stood there for over 40 minutes. Then, without warning, he turned around and walked directly toward the woods again. Same as before. No footprints. No sign he'd even been there. I called the non-emergency line the next day. Gave a vague description. They said they'd send a car around to patrol, but it was a small town, stretched thin, and there wasn't much they could do. I didn't even have a plate number or a clear face. They told me to keep my doors locked and call back if he returned. He did. Every night for the next 4 nights. Same time. Same spot. Standing in my driveway. Looking up at the house. It was like he was studying me. Or waiting. Or deciding. Then came night 5. He didn't go to the driveway. He went around back. The motion sensor light behind the house flipped on at 1:27 a.m. I checked the feed. There he was, standing at the back sliding glass door, just staring inside. No mask, no expression, just a pale, cold face, his eyes completely black, hollow, wide. He raised one hand and placed it on the glass. It left no print. Then he leaned forward and smiled. A wide, unnatural grin, like his mouth didn't know how to stop stretching. I ran to the door with a fire poker, ready to swing. But by the time I got there, he was gone. The snow outside untouched. No tracks. No prints. Nothing. That was the night I stopped staying at that house. I packed a bag and went to stay with my cousin. I filed a full police report and sent them the camera footage. They said the videos were unclear, too snowy, too dark. The man's face never showed. Eventually, they stopped following up. And then, the night before I moved out for good, it happened one last time. I was staying at a friend's place across town. No one knew the address. I hadn't told anyone I was leaving. At 14 a.m., my phone buzzed. A notification from the camera app. Motion detected at the old house. I opened the feed. The porch was empty. The yard still. But the camera slowly tilted, like someone was moving it. Then it turned, and the man's face filled the screen, just inches from the lens. Staring, unblinking. His lips moved. Slowly, I turned up the volume. No sound, just the shape of the words he mouthed. I know where you are. Then, static. The feed went black. I deleted the app that night. The landlord said the next tenant had problems with the cameras, that they stopped working entirely. He didn't ask for an explanation, and I didn't give one. But every now and then, around 1 a.m., I wake up suddenly. No sound. No reason. I check the curtains. I look outside. And sometimes, just sometimes, I swear I see a figure at the end of the driveway, waiting.